Welcome back to the Box Office Dynasty. You got Josh.
And Jack.
That's who we are. And we're ready for another episode. We're really excited about this one. We're really excited about all our episodes.
We're always excited.
I think it would be pretty shocking if we came into a week and like, guys, we're not going to lie. This episode fucking sucks.
Yeah, this is ass. Turn it off.
Yeah, like, you know what? Like, I didn't even, we haven't even done it yet. But future me listens back and says, this sucks. So,
Yeah.
no, we got a great one for you. We're really excited. Of course, we got the box office numbers every week. We're going to talk Andor, folks. Season 2 of Andor. It just finished this past Tuesday. The full season's out on Disney+. Jack and I binged the hell out of it.
Yeah, really did.
We did not space this one out correctly. We crammed it in, and we're going to cram it into this episode. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk Ironheart, a little bit about some stuff going around with Marvel's next project that is set to come out. Then we're just going to talk about some other upcoming shows that we are excited about. And at the end of this episode, we are going to touch on the HBO rebrand. Back to HBO Max. A lot of interesting things happening with that, and we're going to give our thoughts. So we're really excited about this episode. I just wanted to start off on a very much more unfortunate note. I know a lot of my friends and your friends, Jack, our personal, friends in our lives listen to this podcast and support us. One of my friends just passed away yesterday, Chris. He had been battling cancer for some time, and it's a really difficult, really just unimaginably difficult time for all of us that knew him, because Chris was a very pure soul, just like a genuine guy, had a lot of fun, really enjoyed just the silliness in life, and that's something that we all try to embrace. I know you don't even know him, but that's something you try to embrace in life, just me knowing you as a person. And that was just
like a guy I want to hang out with.
Yeah, just so natural. It came so natural to him. And he was a big fan of Rocco, who is on my refrigerator, actually.
Who's Rocco?
Rocco.
Oh, Rocco. Oh, he's so handsome.
Yeah. So, well, I'm sorry. I just realized for anyone who's listening and didn't see it, but Rocco is a soccer ball. And like we would do, me and my friends, we do what we call Congress movie nights. In honor of Chris, I'm just going to give a couple of my favorites, and then I'm going to give what I believe was his favorite. Just because I don't know like his list, but I know some of my favorites that we've done together over the years is Over the Hedge, which I know we also are a big fan of.
Love that shit, dude.
We watched it together. Remember when we had the DVD special with the features?
Yeah. Hammy,
we got drunk
Hammy.
one night, me and Jack and like a few of our other college roommates, and we had the DVD of Over the Hedge, and it came with like the bonus features, which is something I totally miss without physical media, is DVDs and bonus features and all that stuff. And one of the bonus features was drawing Hammy.
We had a contest.
It was like and so we drew him, and we got a little drunk. We drew him, and we put them up on the refrigerator. And for the rest of the year together, all we had was just the pictures of Hammy on the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. So, but Over the Hedge, Shrek 2, Robots, The Greasy Strangler. I don't know if I'd say that's one of my favorites, but I want to throw that out there. Bullshit Artist. So, and his favorite, I believe, or one of his favorites, was Howard Stern's Butt Bongo Fiesta. I actually wasn't there for that one. I hear not so great things about it.
It's a movie?
Yeah, it's on Letterboxd.
Does Howard Stern know this movie exists?
Oh, Howard Stern, I think, knows this movie exists. I'm pretty sure
he's kind of a freak.
He was having those. He was part of those Butt Bongo Fiesta. Look, when we're done investigating Diddy, I think we should start to look into Howard Stern.
That's not a bad,
But yeah, so I just wanted to bring him up and send out my condolences to his family.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, like I know you asked me if because I'd seen that this happened and asked me if I still wanted to record, and this has been it's really difficult. It's been really like we knew it was coming, still hard to process. He was such a huge part of all of our lives and a huge part of our friend group. But I think it's good to be able to continue on and use this platform and celebrate him here. I wasn't sure if I should bring it up, but I think it's a really deserving and unique way to honor my friend and a lot of our friend. So like I said, condolences to his family and to all of the people that knew and loved Chris. And we love you, buddy, and we're going to miss you.
Maybe we could raise some spirits here today.
Yeah, so we're going to dedicate this episode to Chris is what I wanted to do, and the point out of this. And so we're going to do this one for Chris. Mm-hmm. So let's get into it. Let's try and have a good time. And first, I didn't have these ready. I had everything ready but the box office numbers. Let me pull them up for all of you. We are looking at the box office numbers of the weekend of May 9th to the 11th. Nothing really new came out this weekend.
Not really. Slow weekend.
It was kind of So, in fifth place in its first weekend, though, the only one in the top 5 that was a new release is Clown in a Cornfield, making $3.6 million. I don't know if you've heard of this one yet, Jack.
I did hear about that. I was asked to go see it, and I was like, nah, I don't really want to do that.
You could have contributed to its box office.
Yeah, really.
In fourth place in its third weekend of release, coming in at another $6.7 million is The Accountant 2.
Okay.
So that gets a 29.3% drop from its prior weekend. In third place in its sixth weekend in the movie theaters, ladies and gentlemen, Chicken Jockey. A Minecraft movie still holding on to that top 5 spot in the box office.
Not even surprised.
$7.6 million, 33.2% drop from its last weekend. That's 44.2%. My bad. 33.2% is the drop for this next movie, second place, Sinners, making another $22.1 million in its fourth weekend of release. Its entire worldwide total is over $300 million now. And it had a production cost of like $90 million. So that's an incredible achievement. And in first place in its second weekend of release, still holding on to the first spot, is Thunderbolts with $32.3 million, but a 56.4% drop from its prior weekend. And considering that it didn't have a great opening weekend, with the word of mouth this movie has, I would say it's underperforming.
Okay, so you know what? Before we get into Andor, can I talk to you for a minute about Thunderbolts?
Sure.
What do you think of Marvel spoiling days after the movie comes out, and this isn't really spoilers for anyone watching this, that it's the new Avengers?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's crazy to me.
Do you think that's it's hurting its box office?
I don't know if it's hurting the box office tremendously. I just don't think it's helping them the way they thought announcing it would. Like, I think they realized that Thunderbolts with these characters as the, at the forefront, that wasn't going to sell enough tickets, especially with the bad rep that they've had with their last, several films, with a few exceptions. So I feel like they thought, well, if we spin it out quickly and market it as an Avengers film in theaters, people are going to say, ooh, the Avengers are in theaters. And I just don't think it works like that.
No, it's not like detrimental to the film that it's called that, but it's just weird to it's still like spoilery to tell everyone
it's very spoilery, but I think Marvel is kind of like at the core of this cesspool culture where on social media where films are and shows are getting spoiled within moments, like instantly getting spoiled because I think people want to be the first to have a reaction, the first to have a thought, because it's all about trending and going, so, getting likes and comments and getting on people's pages and being in the conversation. And so there's no like barrier for people to be able to still use platforms without having movies and shows spoiled within the first hour, day, whatever of a release. And Marvel's feeding into that.
Right. Marvel is promoting spoiling their own movie. Like, if they're spoiling it, why can't I spoil it for other people? Like, that's going to be a mentality that people are going to have. Like, it was still a build up to what this team is going to be called, and the ending. That's the whole end of it, is like the new Avengers, and Marvel just announced that to everybody. I thought that was interesting strategy. Just crazy stuff.
I'm assuming that was like always part of their marketing plan when they did the whole asterisk thing.
Yeah,
to
flip
it.
Soon, though.
But I agree. I think it was, for what it's worth, failed on their part, like a failed marketing campaign to say, all right, we're gonna put an asterisk and people are gonna try and guess what the real name of it is, which I feel like the majority of people knew it was gonna be some version of like New Avengers, maybe Dark Avengers.
I thought Dark Avengers,
but no one was like, oh my god, Avengers, like nobody.
No,
that didn't catch a single person off guard. So I feel like it was. I will give Marvel props for trying to do something unique, but it did not work.
The only spoilers I saw for Thunderbolts were from Marvel. They announced the chairs thing for Doomsday. They announced who's going to survive Thunderbolts, and they announced everyone except Taskmaster. Boom, confirms Taskmaster dies. Then they announce in the credits, Fantastic Four. All right, this is spoilers for Thunderbolts.
No,
but Fantastic Four theme in the credits. Boom, and credit scene. The Fantastic Four shows up. Like, it's so they're spoiling movie.
You're not even the only. I heard from other people who had that same exact experience with the Fantastic Four theme in the credits.
Like, what are they doing?
And that would have happened. I just wasn't paying attention. I
wasn't either. I was told not to look at the credits by someone who had seen the movie. So I was like, okay, I knew there was going to be something in there, but I didn't look.
But see, fair enough. Like, that it wasn't even a thing yet when it happened, when I went to go see it. I just was, I guess, on my phone, not paying attention. So luckily I didn't see it. But the people I was with saw it, and then you saw it, or someone you knew saw it.
Yeah, they saw it and they told me, don't look at the credits.
And then other people I knew, it happened to them too. And I think that's crazy.
That's 3 instances where they spoiled Thunderbolts on their own.
You know what's funny with the Taskmaster one too is that they are still in all their marketing insisting she's part of the new Avengers.
I know.
Like, that's the one thing they don't want to back down from. And it's like, dude, you didn't even put her. She's not in Doomsday. Like, what do you mean?
Come on.
Like, she was. Did you see that video where the cast was tearing off? The name on the poster to reveal the new Avengers, and it was like all of them, like, like Sebastian Stan and David Harbour and Florence Pugh and I forget who plays Ghost, but she's there. And then the actress that plays Taskmaster is just standing there, like, clapping, like, yay.
Oh,
like,
she was there?
She was there. And it's like, you're not even part of this. I feel bad that because you're contractually obligated to do the press tour, that you have to stand here and pretend you're part of this new team.
Her face shows up for 2 seconds.
Literally,
she has 1 line. It's like 4 words.
So I just think that's funny that's like a hill they refuse to die on. Refuse to not die on.
Marvel's just very weird these days.
Yeah, they are. They're trying, and I give them that. But this instance, it did not work.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note, why don't we get into some Andor?
I would love to do that.
So I guess we will start like we start any review. Both of us, I'm still are trying to like reel with what we just seen because it was so crammed a lot of the season for us.
I finished this season 5 hours ago.
Yeah, I finished it Wednesday, but I didn't have work on Wednesday, so I did a lot of binging because I didn't realize how far behind I was.
Yeah, I watched 7 episodes. I started at like 9 p.m. last night, and I finished today at like 11:30.
Yeah, so God. So I guess we'll start with our ratings. Would you like to go first?
I'll go first. Here's my review of Andor season 2. I give Andor season 2 8 bowls of cereal out of 10.
Oh, I did not think of something funny for my rating. All
You're
right.
never funny. It's fine. You don't have to.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Fuck. Okay.
Uh,
I will give Andor. I have the rating. I'm just trying to think of something. 9.5 Mon Mothma haircuts out of 10.
9.5. All right, we're gonna do non-spoilers first. We're gonna do spoiler free.
Have we ever been this far apart so far on the podcast
No, this
with
is
ratings?
the farthest. But this is specifically. Okay, wait. Is your rating for the entirety of Andor or just season 2?
Season 2.
What did you give season 1?
I gave season 1 a 10.
I give season 1 a 7.5. I will start off. I know.
What?
You're looking at me. This might be one of my hottest Star Wars takes. I don't think season 1 is all that great. I think season 1 is fine. I think season 2 is better. It's just, I might be dumb, but it's like confusing and convoluted, and there's too much shit going on, and I don't.
You're
really
dumb.
care.
You're just fucking dumb.
No,
that's fine.
Yeah, maybe, but like, I shouldn't have to like. There's too much shit going on to focus on and pay attention to, and I know I do pay attention to the episodes, but I thought season 2 was better because I actually started to care about the characters. In season 1, I didn't really care about anybody, except I do think season 1 still is the best episode, which is One Way Out.
Kino Loy, I think,
Yeah,
right? At
that is
Narkina 5.
Narkina 5. That is the best episode. I think it's season 1, episode 5 or 6. When he's in prison.
Yeah, it's around there.
Yeah. That is the best episode of the show, in my opinion.
Well, that's one of them. That has always been one of them. But this season 2 provided so many just fucking like so I didn't. It was split into story arcs, right? Like because they released the season in kind of batches, and I wanted to know your opinion on that decision by Disney and Star Wars to release the film in that kind of a model, because I didn't love it. I feel like you should either drop it all at once or do the weekly release. It feels very much like you couldn't pick a lane, like you tried to do both.
Well, you know what I heard is that the show was originally supposed to be like 4 or 5 seasons. Well, and they took the best arcs from each season and then made them arcs in this season. So that's why it's split up like that.
And I want to talk a little bit about that too, but I just felt like I felt the first arc was the weakest. Was not very interested in what was going on. You have Andor, Cassian Andor stealing the TIE fighter, and you have this like battle going on between these split factions in this group, and I
like that arc a lot, actually.
I did not care for it.
I'm trying to remember.
That was the weakest arc in my opinion, because it just didn't, like, everything that came after really sped up what like this whole show's been all about. And
what else was it? I can't even remember what the other arcs are besides like Gorman.
Well, Gorman. So what is it? It's like 4 arcs. Gorman is the 3rd arc. The 4th arc is like, the finale. What the series finale season,
right? I guess
be. The 3rd arc is the Gorman arc. The 2nd arc is like when they're on. I don't even know what planet they're on. I don't remember. They're like where it's that wheat field. I honestly forget which planet they're on. And Dedra and Cyril are together, and all that.
But what's the plot of that arc? Like, what happened?
Well, dude, this is the problem with binging, man. You don't know,
because it all blends together. I can't.
It blends together.
Like, there's too much shit going on in this show where I can't keep track of anything. I just watched it this morning. I can't even remember what the fuck happened.
But that's part of the problem with the binge model, I think. No, but that was the season. I remember that was well, that was also the season that had all the stuff with like the raping, the rapes,
That was
attempt
crazy.
and
So,
and
dude, I saw this thing online that said Darth. First of all, they were like, "That's too dark for Star Wars," and they were like, "The Empire and Vader specifically would never allow rape." And I don't think that's true. Anakin Skywalker murders children. I don't know if there's a line that we would see him not cross. I don't know what you think about that. Like, do you think Anakin Skywalker would condone rape? Is basically what I'm asking, which is a really fucked up question. But if the Empire's doing it, I mean,
I
people
don't
were
think
saying
he
he
killed
wouldn't.
children.
So you're saying there is no line he wouldn't cross, really?
I think there's no line he wouldn't cross if he could justify it.
He blew up a planet. Like, yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, if he could be
Yeah.
like, this is for the betterment. Like if he had to reproduce, he would do it. You know what
Just
I mean?
because he loved Padme doesn't mean he had like morals. I
Yeah,
mean,
he blew up planets and he executed millions, and people are like, nah, that's too. He wouldn't do that. That's too far.
Also, by the way, the reason we can't remember the stuff like in that part with Bix and everything on the field is because I mixed it up. That was actually the first arc too. That was what was.
That's
I
what I
remember now.
thought. They happened at the same time.
Cassian was trying to get back to them,
Right.
and
okay,
then
so
the second arc is when they're on Coruscant, and they're like in the safe house. Remember?
yeah, I thought that was boring.
I didn't. I was pretty. I didn't love what they did like with Bix's character at times this season, but I really liked this idea of where Cassian and Bix were both at mentally, and like they're struggling greatly mentally, feeling unsafe. They're in a safe house in Coruscant. They have nowhere to turn to. They everything that's gone on. They've lost how many of their friends. Obviously, we see what happens in the first arc, and we'll get into more of it. But I found it a little more intriguing, and obviously, I think the show picked up even more with the second two arcs. But this is why my rating wasn't like 10 out of 10 fantastic for season 2, is because season 2, as great as it was, as great as the parts that were so great were, and even the parts that weren't great were still so well made and like interesting enough. Like
the acting, the writing,
you know what
was
I
still
mean?
phenomenal.
Like everything about it was great. I this is a show that needed more seasons, and I get why it didn't get more seasons, like because that would take a long time. They can't, like, the actors don't want to commit to it, the studios maybe don't want to, like, whatever the case may be. But I think each arc, it would have been, except for the last arc, I think they made that work the way it was. But I think the rest of them needed more like full seasons, because I didn't like that
I
every
agree.
few episodes it would be 1 year later and a lot of important context was skipped and just happens off screen. And
I totally
I did not like that about this season. Like season 1, it all happens, it just plays out, linear, in a very linear fashion. And we get to, like, I don't agree with you in terms of me not caring about the characters. Like, I didn't care about Andor before the show, but then I went into it, and even the first episode, I realized what kind of Star Wars show they wanted to make. I didn't realize how by the end of it would become so important to the whole Star Wars picture and the story.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that at the time, but I was into the type of show they were trying to make, and that's what got me really interested. And then by the end of the first season, I was like, okay, I know what this is about, and I'm gonna, and what this show's really about, and it's in season 2 as well, is about the how brittle tyranny is, and how fragile power can really be. And to the mantra of Rogue One, the hope that can inspire rebellion. And like that, the manifesto that we hear in season 1 that comes back in season 2, that's the epitome of what this show is about. And that's why it really resonated with me even after the first season, because it takes the really like climactic events in the Star Wars universe, and it gives layered depth to it. And like we hear the whole galaxy, and now we get to see how that plays out, how empirical control plays out for different groups. And we, yes, there's a lot going on, but I enjoyed seeing, those different sides. Obviously, I've gone into just giving praise. Like, yeah, I had a problem with the way the seasons were, but this is what made season 1 so great. Like I said, is you see the political side with Mon Mothma, and you see like on the ground on Aldhani, and what that fight looks like in the earlier stages of the rebellion and the political games played. You see what the hierarchy within the Empire and the ISB looks like, and that individual need for control on every level, but that lack of individuality within it. These were like the themes that I thought made season 1 that 10 out of 10, and they do get repeated in the best parts of season 2. But to round out my point, it is skipping around a lot of important information.
I think that, yeah, it was like I said earlier, the thing that brings this entire show down for me is just there's too much going on at once, and they do it a lot in season 2 with the time skips. I mean, they have basically different seasons pushed into season 2, different themes and different arcs pushed into season 2. But the show as a whole, and I'm gonna get probably a lot of hate for this, a hot take, Star Wars take, but season 1 has a few standout episodes. Season 2 has a few standout episodes, and I think the rest is mediocre. I think the show overall is really good. An 8 out of 10 is really good, but it's not. I mean, the show overall, I'd probably give it an 8. But like season 2, the beginning of it to me is like a 7, and the second half is like an 8.59. So it goes down to an 8. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have a short attention span. I don't know. I'm watching it, and I'm really interested in the characters, and I love the dialogue. Like the writing is really good, but there's just too much. I have to remember that this guy's doing this. Cyril and whatever her name is, Deborah or some shit, are doing other thing. I've done all these names, all these characters getting thrown around. I only really care about 3 or 4 characters, and the rest I'm like, I don't give a fuck about you. Why is there so much screen time on you? I don't know. There's just too much going on.
See, I think there's too much going on in season 2, but in terms of, like I said, the time skips, but I don't agree about like the different plot lines. I think there's tons of examples of shows that have lots of different storylines and characters focusing on, and that's what I think is great about television, where it's so much harder to do in film as a medium, because television gives you the time and space to be able to explore lots of other characters in a show, whereas a movie, you have 2 hours, give or take. I mean, you can have longer movies, sure, but you can only focus on a set of characters. Like you got your main characters, and it's very hard to, I mean, like Nashville's a great example, Robert Altman movie that has like 20 main characters, but that doesn't happen often. That about Andor, like, like I said, I loved that we are getting in this show, because the show is supposed to be, okay, so we know there's an empire in Star Wars. We know that the empire is having a grasp of a control on all the planets in the galaxy because they overthrew the Republic. And we know how it all ends, and we know, we see the big space battles with the lightsabers and all the cool shit, and it's great. But not often, because there's a lot of Star Wars novels and things out there, but not often for the casual audience is there a show or a film in Star Wars that shows, in my opinion, what that what this looks like on other levels, so to speak, like what the true empirical control this era of Star Wars looks like on the ground. And we see, like, we're in this show, like I said, we're getting those early years of what the rebellion, like the pockets of rebellion, and the people actually fighting and trying to survive.
This is what most people in Star Wars are experiencing. It's not the Force in Star Wars and Jedi and
yeah.
The Sith. Like, most people don't even know what the hell a Jedi is, probably.
Like, I feel like even Cassian Andor, like, I always felt there were, especially in season 2, it doesn't really come up in season 1, when he has interactions with the Force healer.
He's like bullshit.
and he's like trying to come to terms with it, you know what I mean? And like he doesn't understand what he's feeling, what he's experiencing. Because like we know, as people who have seen other pockets of types of Star Wars media, that this exists and this is very real here. But this is someone who's never really run into that,
No.
experienced that side of his world, of his kind of, universe. And so to him, it's just this magical, it's as magical and mythical bullshit as something we would hear in our day-to-day lives and be like, we don't believe that because we don't have experience with that.
And
Um
yeah, I
yeah.
do like the show. I don't want anyone to think I don't like the show. I do think it's a good show. I think this show is kind of what Mandalorian tried to be at first, and then it got too into the Force and into the Jedi. Just a down to earth, like you said, like real, like Star Wars, like real, what the people of Star Wars are actually experiencing, instead of all this mystical bullshit that we get all the time. It's like the average Star Wars experience during this time period, and I think that's kind of what Mandalorian tried to be, except like post Return of the Jedi, and then it turned into like Luke shows up and Boba Fett and all these things and the Jedi, which is cool. We all like that stuff, but I think this was a really refreshing thing for Star Wars.
I totally agree. I would just say the only difference is that that show wasn't about what that revolution is. I mean, every Star Wars media is about that struggle to us to a degree,
Right.
but that show was more Mando's story.
Well, just because they're different
This,
time periods.
yeah, yeah. I'm just I'm just saying that like what I liked about Andor is that it was like that um really like this is what the revolution looks like. This is what that rebellion would look like in this world. And it like
Mm-hmm.
showcases it on different levels. Like I said, we see it on Coruscant. We see it in the game of politics and them
Yeah.
trying to maneuver around the grasp that the Empire has because it's a puppet government.
We see so
also
many planets, man.
we see, yeah, we do. And that's what I love. Like it makes the world so immersive. We
Mm-hmm.
see Gorman, which to me, the arc with Gorman is up there with the end of Clone Wars and all the best Star Wars
I
that
agree
they've
with
ever
that.
done.
I
That they've ever
love
done.
that arc. Yeah.
The episode 8, Who Are You, is probably my favorite episode in Andor. Right after it would be the prison escape from Narkina
Mm-hmm.
5, the season 1 finale, and the episode in season 2 with Luthen and Clea, where we get their backstory. I really loved that episode. I thought that really revealed a lot. I loved what they did with Clea as a whole. Did you know that that actress, that was her first acting credit at all?
No way.
Yeah.
She was top 3 favorite characters this season, honestly.
Well, because she wasn't a big character in season 1, and Tony Gilroy supposedly really liked what he saw to her and wrote in a larger part for her, which I think is
I love
crazy
that.
because she ends up being one of the most central figures of this whole story.
Yeah.
Like the argument could be made that she's Axis. You know what I mean? Like she really is Axis. And this like Luthen's part in this rebellion really all like this whole time boiled down to her. And I don't think a lot of us would have said that we saw that coming.
Mm. She was great.
In
She really was.
in season 1, and I thought she did fantastic.
Before we get into spoilers,
I feel like I'm not gonna lie,
we're teetering the edge. We're
we've
teetering
been
the edge.
teetering it a little bit.
Before we get into spoilers, I do want to say one thing. Something that I both love and hate about this show is the fact that it's so good. Like, if you told someone 10 years ago that there's going to be a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi, there's going to be a show about Boba Fett, there's going to be a show about the Sith and the Jedi from 10,000 years ago, and there's going to be a show about this random side character from Rogue One, and you said that that was going to be the best one, my mind would be blown. I mean, the fact that they put this much effort into the writing, into the cinematography, into the visuals of Andor, but that same treatment wasn't given to Boba Fett or Obi-Wan Kenobi makes me so angry. Like, I love that Andor gets it, but it makes me so annoyed that we could have gotten that for Obi-Wan Kenobi, dude.
I wonder if this is kind of like that conversation we had last week or two. When did, well, I don't even know. Whenever Thunderbolts came out, 2 weeks ago now. When we discussed Thunderbolts and we talked
Mhm.
about how Marvel's strength is when it doesn't have the pressure of its biggest properties and characters, and they can just focus on like the B and C level characters and focus on writing and crafting really good stories. I think it could be similar with Star Wars. Like, I think they got in over their heads about trying to do Obi-Wan, which I think could have totally worked, but they should have made a film. It should not have been dragged out in this long
Yeah.
6, 7 episode series where they spent half the time running after Leia and doing all this
Like, why was she
like,
even in the fucking
stupid,
show?
yeah, like stupid shit. So I wonder if it's like that, where it's like, oh, we're trying to do a Boba Fett series. We have to get it a certain way. We're trying to do an Obi-Wan series, an Ahsoka series. Like, the expectations for an Andor series were not high. So maybe it's like Marvel where they're able to just focus in on the writing and the narrative because the pressure is just not there.
I agree with you, but I don't even think it's like side characters. I think it's just like the non-popular characters because Boba Fett has such little screen time in the movies he's in, and he's not even a side character. He's barely a character. And then this was his role. This was him becoming a character in this movie, and they botched the fuck out of it. So I
But
think because he became so popular in his 2 minutes of screen time, and his tiny little arcs in Clone Wars, and he was in Mandalorian a little bit for maybe like 3 episodes. There was so much pressure because everyone loves this character, and people liked Cassian, and people liked Andor a little bit, but he wasn't Boba Fett level. So you're right, there was too much pressure, I think, on a character like Boba Fett. Although he's a side character, it's just what the fans expect.
he's a side character, but his lore had been elevated, for a lack of a better way of putting it. Like,
because
he
he
had
became
been
so popular.
he was a very popular and beloved character, and he still is. And man, they really dropped the ball on the Book of Boba Fett, unfortunately. But I loved Andor. I loved everything about this show, or almost everything about it. So I guess we're gonna get into spoiler territories. But like I said, I've already been kind of in that
Yeah.
walking that line. Yeah, I don't even know where else
Well,
to
we were
go
talking
with
about
it.
Clea.
Yeah,
So,
so well,
so this is spoilers for Andor season 2. One of my favorite scenes was when
yeah,
Krennic was in the display room, I guess, and Clea and the ISB soldier had to get the microphone out of the um I guess the artifact. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
They had to
they're
get
in
the
the showroom.
Yes, yes.
And it's like Krennic, and it was her. It was. See, this is what I mean. Put some respect on my boy Lonnie.
I couldn't remember his
Lonnie-
name. There's too many
Lonnie-
fucking characters.
Dude, that sounds like a skill issue. I'm just gonna lay it out on the line. That sounds like a skill issue.
Who the hell remembers Lonnie, dude?
Dude, this whole thing doesn't happen without him. He's actually a pretty important character to the
Especially
story.
in the end. And then Luthen fucking kills his ass.
But that was a strategic move. Like Luthen, like that. Luthen doing that made sense for him. Obviously, it fucking sucks, and it's part of his morally gray area.
Dude, Luthen is this close to becoming Saw Gerrera.
Well, no, he is Saw Gerrera. That's like, I think it's an interesting contrast of the two of them throughout the show, because I really think that Luthen Rael and Saw Gerrera are two halves of the same coin. They're two halves of the same Martin Van Buren coin. I mean, they are like they really reflect one another in terms of their ambitions. And like, they share the same goal as the regular, alliance of the rebellion, but they are willing to go to no ends to achieve
Yeah.
the freedom that they want to achieve for the galaxy. They basically, and like Luthen admits this. I'm sure Saw does too. I can't think off the top of my head, but like Luthen admits it to Lonnie in season 1. He sold his soul to try and fight. Like, he understands that he had to bankrupt his own morals in order to accomplish whatever it needed to be done to win and take down the Empire. And we can sit here and judge that, and should judge that, because he does cross lines that the Alliance would never cross, that he shouldn't cross. But at the same time, you understand why he's doing it, what his intentions are.
I think
and makes him a great character.
It does make him a great character, and people love his character, but people hate Saw Gerrera. And I think the difference in that is because their strategies, they do the same things with the same goals, but Luthen is a lot more strategic and meticulous in what he does. He is more poison and stabbing you in the back, betrayal. Saw Gerrera's explosions and massacres and just causing chaos. And I think that's the difference between the two. They're both very extreme, but they have different ways of going about it, and it does reflect their characters.
Yeah, I think a good way of putting it is that Luthen sends spies, and Saw Gerrera sends like insurgents.
Yes, that's
and exactly. That's kind of how they go about their business in order to fight the Empire. And again, well-intentioned, and both of them, again, the reason why I say they reflect one another is because think about this episode where we learn the truth behind Luthen and Clea's complicated relationship. Sort of father-daughter, not really though. Like there's and Tony Gilroy, I mean, well, he was part of the massacre that killed her family and her people, and that's what they're getting at. And but then he takes her in, he saves her, and he joins, he leaves the Empire, he joins the rebellion. I just found all of that like a really interesting contrast to Saw and Jyn Erso's relationship that we see in Rogue One, where he kind of took her in and trained her, and part of this fight kind of thing with these morally gray, complicated father-daughter relationships, especially because if she's no longer with her father because Galen Erso was forced to go and design the Death Star plan. So I just think that that's a really interesting contrast. And I think that it's a really keen point that you made about Luthen and Saw and the fact that they really are mirror characters of one another.
Yeah. So that was one of my favorite scenes, is just the tension of them doing that. This show is really good at building tension. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Bix's big decision in this show?
I thought it was tragic. And I think it made a lot of sense based on where we had seen her character. And I think it would make even more sense, had we seen more, had this been 4 or 5 seasons. But I still think it was a tragic but like right choice, because this whole show, it's part, like I said, it's about that rebellion and that revolution and doing what it takes. This show is about sacrifice. Everyone in this show sacrifices something, and this is Bix's sacrifice. She believes Cassian. Cassian pleads to her that he's done. He wants out of the fight. He wants to go somewhere quiet with her and live their lives together. And he believes that, and she believes that. But she also believes, and to her truth in the end, that he is meant to play a bigger role in the rebellion. And he does. He obviously does. That decision makes her partially responsible for the destruction of the first Death Star. But do you think she knew she was pregnant when she made that choice? Because when I saw that, I was thinking maybe she did, because she knew if Cassian knew he had a son or a daughter or whatever that baby was, that there's no way he continues fighting. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, and I was speculating the same, but I think it's purposely ambiguous because it doesn't matter. Like either
You're
way,
right.
like I think she would leave either way.
I think
because
you're right.
I think it's really about the sacrifice that he can't be with her and fight the Empire at the same time, and the galaxy needs her, even though like galaxy needs him, even though she needs him too. And the child is just additive. And like I read why, like Tony Gilroy said, why they did that is because they wanted to end the show on a bright note, a positive note. Because the whole mantra, like I said earlier, is that, you know, rebellions are built on hope. That's the whole saying from Rogue One, right? And so I feel, and we hear it in this show too, actually. He hears it from the receptionist, the hotel receptionist.
That's right. Oh, I fucking love that guy too.
Yeah, dude, that guy was great.
That guy was sick.
And we're going to get like a show about him in like 4 years, and it's gonna end up winning like 5 Emmys. It's gonna be
still
like
gonna be better than Boba Fett, dude.
Yeah, it's way better than Boba Fett. But yeah, I just I think that that choice, like either way. Oh, that's right. Either way didn't matter, and they said they wanted it to end on a hopeful note, and like him having the son, the kid, and Bix raising him somewhere quiet. You know, and peaceful, and, you know, not part of the fight. It goes onto that idea that Cassian's sacrifice wasn't for nothing. And I think the fact that that kid exists and we know Cassian's fate in Rogue One is a little better than if he just died. And it's like, you know, because there's a personal sacrifice. It's not just we're saving the galaxy. Right. It's I'm giving my child a brighter future.
He gave it up, and he didn't even know it existed.
He didn't have, because like you said, he wouldn't have given it up otherwise, but he needed to. The galaxy needed him to, and he needed to make that sacrifice for the child he didn't know that he had. But the sacrifice still had to be made. And I think that was right. You know what I mean? Not just they needed to explain why Bix wasn't in Rogue One, which, by the way, I want to talk a little bit about Rogue One. I watched Rogue One right after.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Everyone's like, oh, it makes it better. I agree, but I actually also think it kind of makes it worse a little bit.
How so?
Like, it just because Andor is such a layered show, it feels like there's some context that doesn't get brought up in Rogue One that feels weird that it wouldn't, considering it's the direct sequel.
Like
and
what?
It literally just like Axis and, you know, everything that led to them
Luthen and like
anything like that, but just, you know, like there's like a few instances, like obviously at the end when Cassian and Jyn are screwed and they're trying to tease at this weird awkward romantic tension, and it just doesn't work. Or also, I feel like maybe I'm like missing something, but I'm pretty sure that they retconned where in this show in Andor they now retconned how Andor finds out about the Death Star, because in Rogue One he finds out from the pilot.
But in Andor, he doesn't know what the weapon is. He just knows it's a weapon.
Yes, but in Rogue One, it just, I don't know, made it sound like he was learning about a weapon for the first time, is my point.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's no way to work around that.
I don't know. Like, it could have just been the way I interpreted it. Because you're right. He doesn't know. None of them know what the weapon is at the end of Andor. But it just feels like, I don't know. It felt more like there could have been more of an obvious bridge, is what I'm trying to say. Other than it does lead into it.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense. But it just, I think Rogue One, in hindsight now, would have been better as a film coming out after Andor. And obviously there's nothing you could do about it, because Rogue One is what inspired. I'm just saying, like, Andor doesn't happen without Rogue One, but I'm just saying, like, Rogue One is still a great film. I think the context with Andor adds a lot of weight to Rogue One, but also Rogue One, rewatching it, there are actually parts I don't love that feel kind of rushed or slowed down or whatever. Like,
it's not my favorite.
You know what I mean? Like, I really enjoy it. I think it's a really good movie, but like, Andor is so climactic only for it all to just quickly come to the end that it does in Rogue One for a lot of the characters, like Krennic and
Yeah, Andor himself.
Andor. So I don't know. I just feel like it bridges well, but it didn't make the movie better. The movie makes the show better, but I don't know if the show makes the movie better.
So okay, I can see that.
Because the movie makes the show better because we know Cassian's fate.
Yeah, it gives
Like,
us
we
an
know
ending.
it gives like, we know he's doomed, and we're rooting for characters that are ultimately doomed, and it's like that Romeo and Juliet kind of archetype. And I think that that is something that is persistent in, literature and film and all of that, is these doomed character archetypes. And so I think that's a really intriguing part. I know you didn't love that aspect of season one. You were like, well, we know how it goes from. My argument, my rebuttal would be that you watch the prequels knowing how it's going to end for, Anakin Skywalker and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's the fact that we know how it's going to end, and it is what made it, that journey, more interesting, because it's like, oh, we're rooting for someone who is ultimately doomed, but like,
Well, speaking of endings, this is a series finale. I don't think, and I think this is good, that we're gonna get any characters that were introduced in Andor. We're never gonna see them again, which is a good thing. But
I wouldn't say that.
I don't think we're ever gonna see a Luthen or a Bix or
Well, no. I don't think we're gonna see any of the dead characters again.
I don't think anyone who was introduced in the show we're ever seeing again. As
Yeah,
like
I don't.
like
I
obviously
don't
we're gonna see
know.
Mon Mothma again. I'm assuming somewhere, sometime. But out of everyone's like endings, I want to touch on them at least a little bit real quick. I was really only surprised by two because I kind of figured most of them would just die. Um, I was really surprised by Deidre getting arrested, and I was surprised by Bix surviving because Andor and Jin get a little romantic at the end of their movie. I kind of figured she'd be dead. So I was very nice surprised that she survived, and I was surprised that Deidre lived. I thought she was a fucking goner.
I think it's really fascinating that she takes the fall for this security leak that wasn't really her fault
Mm-hmm.
because of her overzealous ambitions.
She's too out there, man.
And that's what I think is interesting, because Krennic is similar. Krennic and her are very similar because they're both, like I said, they're over ambitious. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they both. I was talking earlier about people's individuality within that empirical power, structure, and I feel like it's because there are levels to them wanting more power. So, Krennic craves more power. He craves approval from the Emperor. Deidre, she wants more power. She wants status.
Just
And
wants the
I,
glory.
yeah, right. She wants, at least that's what she wants at times. Like, she wants to, she wants to find access. That's her biggest
Yeah.
thing.
And she also talks about like having freedom from the Empire, but there is no, for her, she doesn't really want that. I think that's what she just tells Cyril, you know?
Yeah, and I think he's a really fascinating character, and I think he has a lot of conflict inside of him, that, made for his relationship with Dedra here in season two all the more of a unique dynamic between the two, because she is like stone cold, like, um, this is
Yeah, I
this is
like,
what I want, and this is how I'm going to accomplish that. And if that doesn't go right, I will do whatever it takes, without question
mhm.
or hesitation. And he stops and questions, things going on, and he's playing it, as a double spy for the Empire when he's on Gorman, but he also doesn't know the true ambitions and the true, like, what's really going on there. And you clearly can tell, even though he's playing a double cross, he's pretty regretful of it, because
Yeah, he's
it's
very morally
crossing a
gray.
the and we see a lot of morally gray, like, good guys, so to speak. I don't
Hmm.
know that you always see as many morally gray bad guys in
No,
Star
you're
Wars.
right.
I feel like more often in Star Wars, it's like there's that line. They're pretty fucked up, they're bad. Like there are morally gray villains, but not as many, in my
Is
opinion.
there any character? There's always like a theme or like a motif of the hero that refuses to kill. Do we ever get that once in Star Wars? Like, I'm pretty sure every good guy like just fucking kills people, dude. Like when I see Andor just sniping people, I'm like, this is awesome. I like it. It's cool. It's like a character's doing whatever they
Well, but
can.
they're doing it because they're trying to survive. You know what I
Right.
mean? They're
But
doing
like, do we ever see a character who's like, there's another way? Like we can tie him up instead of just shooting him right in the face.
um
Like Luke just like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda storm the temple, they just start slicing clones in half. Luke just starts killing everybody on Jabba's barge, even though they're just like workers.
what's her face from the Bad Batch?
Omega?
Omega.
She's like a child. I don't know. I guess you're right, but
But she fights with them, and she's like, "No, we don't have to like, that
I know. And
that's
then
not
yeah,
the
the
act.
terrible
She
New
she has
Zealand
like
accent.
she yeah, that's what it is, a New Zealand accent. Yeah,
And then and then Hunter and the rest of the Bad Batch just go and kill everybody.
yeah, like they don't care, but she's like,
Well,
there has to be another
a lot
way.
in that show. That's true.
Yeah.
With the existence of stun guns, I don't understand why there isn't more characters who are like, let's not kill. You know?
Because they those because then the characters they stun will just wake up and
Yeah, I
just
guess
try
you're
to
right.
try to
They'll
kill
get
them
revenge.
again, try to kill them again.
Before we like move on,
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have? I just want to mention Luthen real quick because he's like the guy, you know.
Yeah.
I was also surprised. I figured he was gonna die, but I was surprised that he lived after he like stabbed himself. That was a really cool moment when he was dying. And I was
That
like, oh,
whole
fuck, Luthen's
scene,
dead.
that whole
And then
scene
they
was
saved
fantastic.
him, and Clea had to go kill him. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I love the episode where we're getting Luthen and Clea's backstory while she's doing this, and that's what I mean by like whatever it takes. And everyone, pretty much everyone in this show has to one way or another buy into, whatever it takes to win and get what they need to move and fight. Whether it's the Empire fighting the Rebellion or the Rebellion fighting the Empire. I also wanted to bring up, what was the name of Dedra's boss, Major
Oh, it's like something with a P, like Partakov or something.
Partarot? Yeah, dude, his ending, that scene was fantastic
Yeah, that was really good.
because that was like that representation. Like I think this show did a good job at like showcasing and visualizing that imperialism and power consumes even onto itself. And that's why, like, you see Dedra goes to jail because she takes the fall, and her boss, he fucking shoots himself and kills himself. Just the scene with him listening to that manifesto about how like power is so difficult because it's exhausting. It takes so much like control to control people because it's so unnatural, and he knows that. You know what I mean? And that's like this whole strength of the Empire caving in on itself, and that is showcased very well in Andor. So I thought that was a really cool ending for a character too.
You know who I thought didn't need to be in this season at all was Mon Mothma's cousin, Vel. She was part of the problem where it's like there's too much going on because like she had nothing to do, but they gave her a lot of screen time, a lot less than last season, but like she had stuff to do last season with Aldani and then the heist and talking to Luthen and trying to kill Cassian. But
we probably
this
would understand
season,
more of her, yeah, if we'd gotten, like I've said, multiple seasons.
yeah, she was just kind of there and talking, and then like her girlfriend dies, and it's like, okay, I don't even know who the fuck that is, and like I don't
What do you
even care
mean?
about her.
She was in the first season. She was also.
I
in
know,
Albany.
but like she was in like 2 episodes, and like
Cinta.
I don't care about her
No,
or Vel.
I thought it was pretty heartbreaking. I thought.
I didn't care. I don't think Vel is interesting at all. The fact that she's Mon Mothma's cousin, all she's got going for her.
I agree. They didn't give her enough to do. I think that's a problem. But I'm glad that she was still around. I thought it was an interesting like side plot that was going on, and a sad one at that. And also, I thought it was pretty vital that she was there at the end for Clea when Clea is on Yavin and kind of just wandering around and like lost and not sure if she belongs there, and she's in the rain and she runs into Vale because
Yeah,
they
it
know each
looks
other.
good.
But also they know each other, and she didn't know anyone else there, and I think
Mhm.
she needed that, like, you know, she needed someone. I think like she needed Val to be there. And that's what I'm saying. Like you say we're not gonna see any of these characters. I think we could. I'd love to see more of Clea. You know what I mean? Doing stuff in the
I would
rebellion.
too.
I would love to see, and Vel would be in that. Like she'd be part of that. And that's what I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like I think that
Yeah,
could be an
it would be
interesting.
cool to give her more stuff to do.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. So, overall, though, final thoughts. We should definitely move on to some of our other stuff. But
Mhm.
final Andor thoughts.
Um, you know, season two, I think it was an upgrade. I think people disagree with that. But I think season two was an upgrade. I'm not in love with the show. I don't think it's the second coming of Christ like everyone else does. I think it's good. I think it's a breath of fresh air for Star Wars. I had a good time watching it. I liked what I saw. I liked the characters. I really loved some of the episodes. I think it's some of the best stuff Star Wars has put out in the last 30 years. Um, and I really hope they stick to this formula of getting these good writers and these passionate artists to make this kind of thing and not botch the shows like they've been doing recently. This was a really, really great show.
Yeah, well said. Well, let's move on. So
Okay.
let's talk a little bit of Ironheart. I literally just watched the trailer like right before we started recording this because
You
I
know,
hadn't seen it yet.
the thing is, I we don't even need to talk about the trailer. Like, of course we're going to, but I
It's not.
really
I
wanted to
mean,
talk about.
that's what I want to talk about. There's not much to say about the trailer. I I'm not that interested, and it's
No.
not. I'm not like, for example, discussing film, the Twitter page,
Hmm.
the account that posts like all the news updates and stuff.
Yeah.
They have to turn the comments on the post about Ironheart off for obvious like racial
Yeah.
misogynistic
Of course.
reasons. That's not like why I'm not interested. And I think that that's disgusting that has to be the case, and that
It's unfortunate.
this show is getting that kind of treatment from people online, because that's bullshit. I'm just not interested in the story and the character, and like I watched the trailer and there was nothing about the trailer that really stuck out to me. I thought it
Yeah.
was cool. The only thing that I thought of was I thought it was cool that like the armor is actually like physical armor and
It's
not
not nanotech.
nanotech.
Yeah, man.
That was the only thing I really thought of. I think the whole Ryan Coogler producer thing is them just milking Sinner's success, and like they probably would use his name anyway, but like he's an executive producer. I don't know how much oversight he had on the project, and I think they're really just milking the name and the success of Sinners to
Yeah.
try and push on. Like that's their only marketing that I think that they're doing, is putting his name on it. And that basically they're putting the whole success on Ironheart is them banking on Sinners, which is kind of weird to me.
So the biggest thing I wanted to talk about is that Ironheart comes out in a little over a month, and Disney has done next to nothing to market this show. It's their next project, and we got a trailer like 3 days ago, and there's no interviews, there's no press, there's no uh posters being posted, there's no social media activity, there's nothing about Ironheart at all coming from Marvel, coming from Disney. I don't think they really give a shit about this project at all. It's so weird to, of course they're still going to promote Thunderbolts, it's what's out right now, but it's so weird to have nothing really except a new trailer a month before the release of a TV show. I don't think
And might
any.
we add, like, the only trailer? It's not like a new
Right.
trailer. It's the first trailer we
There's no
got for the
teasers, there's
show.
no nothing. Like usually there's posts on social media, there's leaks, there's rumors, there's the fans don't really care about this show. Marvel Studios doesn't seem to give a shit about this show. Like you said, they're just putting Ryan Coogler's name on it. Executive producer, of course he did something, but like to be like from the guy that brought you Sinners, I mean, he did Wakanda Forever, and she was in that. I didn't think she was that interesting of a character in that. I'm gonna watch it. I didn't watch Secret Invasion, but I watch everything else that Marvel puts out. Um, but I don't know. It's just this is part of what I'm saying about Marvel being weird recently. It's just weird behavior.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna start by saying I don't plan on watching it.
Okay.
At least not immediately. I can't
Yeah,
say
maybe
I'm
wait till
not.
reviews come out.
Never say never. Marvel not promoting this in any what way is a pretty, glaring sign that they don't think it's very good. That's
Yeah,
that's
there's
what
no confidence.
that's what that tells me, is that there's no confidence that this is going to work. Because when you think you have something on your hands, like, studios tend to know when they got a hit on their hands or not. Obviously, you get your surprises. I'm not quite sure Warner Bros. Knew just how successful Sinners was going to be, but studios know when they're sitting on gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to trash. And I think Disney and Marvel, more or less, I'm not gonna sit here and call Ironheart trash. That's not fair. Hasn't come out.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they're looking at it that way, and they're probably saying this isn't very good. We're gonna send it out there, but it's gonna be one of the many things that gets released that gets brushed away very quickly. And it doesn't happen to the MCU often because there's such a spotlight on the MCU. But it happens with a lot of studios. They release films or shows that are under the radar and kind of no one ever hears about it. And I think that this is the
Right.
closest we're going to get that with Marvel, because they just don't have the confidence, or they would be pushing it more.
And this doesn't happen, like you said, to the MCU. I mean, look at shows like Loki or WandaVision or Moon Knight, where they were pushing that stuff on social media, on YouTube, on with trailers, with posters, with posts, um, promoting the shit out of those shows. And those are the more popular ones. But do you even remember the marketing for like Secret Invasion? It was great. That was a shitty show that they shouldn't have confidence in, and but they did, and the marketing was really good. Every day a new poster or a new image of a main character, but half their face was a scroll. That was cool. Just something. Give us something for Ironheart, and they don't. Like Hawkeye, even What If got a lot of marketing. This has nothing, and it's making me not nervous because I don't really care, but for the future of Marvel Studios, maybe I just don't get it.
Well, they're clearly, I mean, we know that they're moving away from the quantity over quality, and they're trying to focus on quality over quantity, which is crazy that they thought they should
Yeah,
do
I wonder.
the first. But yeah, they're moving away from that formula of all those shows. They're doing less shows now. They're doing less movies per year now.
Mhm.
So I think that there is some hesitancy on their end about really pushing shows, because people feel so, I guess, bothered by the MCU at this point, and
Like it's a
they're
nuisance.
yeah, like they're
Like, oh,
everlasting.
this is coming out again.
Got to do my freaking chore, my Marvel chores.
Yeah.
But I would think that with it coming out after Thunderbolts, which has great word of mouth, maybe underperforming at the box office, like we said, but great word of mouth, and before Fantastic Four, which is probably one of the most anticipated Marvel films in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
I would argue maybe the most anticipated since Spider-Man: No Way Home. I know we could say Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I
No,
don't know
but
if
I
that
think
was
you're right.
I don't know if that was more anticipated. It just turned out to be a great film.
Yeah, I think
You
you're right.
know. So I would argue this is probably Marvel's most anticipated film since Spider-Man: No Way Home, and it's coming out a couple months after one of their best surprises in Thunderbolts, and right in between is this show. And instead of it being put on a pedestal because of the two movies that they're releasing it in between, it's getting sunk down into the shitter.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that it's a good opportunity that they have some good grace again in the general public for them to promote this show. And I think because, like I said, they think it's not very good, they don't want to get on people's bad sides right after they started winning people back with Thunderbolts. And so they're just saying, oh, no, it's fine. We got Fantastic Four coming out. Don't worry. And the marketing for that has been I was going to say fantastic.
Come on.
No pun intended, folks. But it has been
It has
fantastic.
been. I mean, we know it's a movie versus a show, but it's still to get nothing for a month before the show
I
comes
get,
out is
yeah. Look,
crazy.
they should care more about Fantastic Four than Ironheart, because the success of the future of their plans and the framework of what they want to do in the MCU is a lot more is riding a lot more on Fantastic Four right now than Ironheart. But still, it is your job to push this and promote this, and you're not doing that, and it's a disservice to everyone who worked on it.
Right, I genuinely feel bad for, like, especially the actress who plays Riri Williams, Ironheart, because she seems really passionate about it, and she's good for the role. I don't really care much about the character, but I think she's good, and that is upsetting that they don't really see that, maybe, or they don't care about that. So I think this is, just to sum it up, this is just the Ironheart is the forgotten Marvel project, and I think that'll stay that way.
And just because we don't care doesn't mean that there isn't someone out there that does, like there are people out there who care just because we don't. And that maybe they don't know about it because they didn't hear about it being released. They're not getting their updates on the box office.
It's their job to make people care.
Yeah, it's their job.
Us care.
It's their job, and
shove it down my throat.
They haven't given us a reason. Like that reminds, like, remember the movie Bullet Train?
Yeah. Love that
with
movie.
Brad Pitt. I remember not caring about it, and then I kept seeing trailers for months and months on end. It played in front of literally everything, and it was to the point where I was like, fine, I'll go see it, and I ended up really liking it.
I loved it.
So that's promoting a movie, and that's how it works. I could be surprised. I'd say I don't care about Ironheart. What if I watch it and it ends up being great? You know what I mean? But they haven't given me anything to say I'm going to take time out of my day and sit and watch this when there's so much other stuff to watch. Like, it's a lot of competition. It's 2025. We're in the middle of the streaming wars.
Right. Yeah. So that's really all I wanted to talk about. That. Do you want to talk a little bit about Fallout?
I do. I know you haven't seen the first season, so I'm not.
I saw the first episode, and then I kind of forgot about the show.
Damn, dude, underrated. All right, I'll say this. I loved the first season, and I'm really excited about the next one coming out in December. I thought it's really telling that Amazon renewed it for a third season months and months before season 2 comes out. Because opposite of Ironheart, that tells me they're confident, and rightfully so. I loved the first season. And what I loved about it is that, and what I think more video game adaptations should be for shows or films, is that it's not a direct adaptation of any of the games. For example, I never really got into the Fallout series, right?
Yeah, I only played Fallout 4.
Right. So, like, I never really got into that. And this show allowed me to get into this world. And that's why I loved that they were able to take this world they created on the medium of video games and be able to transfer it. Because what they did is they told their own story with their own characters. Lucy is her own original character, not from the games. She's original to the show, and I found that really interesting because they didn't sacrifice the pre-established lore to tell this story. And I think more video game adaptations, whether, like I said, they be film or show, they shouldn't be just direct adaptations of games where people have a set like idea of what it should look like.
Yeah, the expectations are going to be...
Because you're like, why it was better in the game. But you're not going to say that with Fallout because there is no direct game. Instead, you're like, this is just another cool addition to this universe that lets other people like myself or you who haven't really gotten too much into these games ever to get into this world. And I highly recommend you check it out. They came out with the teaser for season 2. It looks like they're teasing New Vegas. So I'm very, very, very excited.
That's cool.
I
love Walton Goggins. So
Walton Goggins is a busy man.
Yeah,
he's a busy man. He was in The White Lotus. He is in Invincible.
He just hosted SNL.
He just hosted SNL. Which, by the way, we've talked a little bit about season 50. Just a shout out. It wraps up season 50 tonight. Actually,
yeah,
Scarlett Johansson. I think Colin Jost might be leaving the show.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I mean, that's his wife.
Well, maybe we'll have to talk about that next episode.
So if that happens, just a little potential teaser, but please don't leave Colin. We love you.
Yeah, we do love you, Colin.
So yeah, it's very excited for Fallout. Ella Purnell is great in the lead. Just a really great show on Amazon. Very excited. And you got to watch it. You have plenty of time. Season 2 comes out in December, but I'm very much looking forward to us discussing season 2 on this podcast.
Yeah, I'll be able to catch up by then.
Oh, I hope so. You know what? You say that, and then the night before, you're going to be binging half the
I know.
season like you did with Andor.
I need to do that with Last of Us too.
Yeah, I actually did not watch the most recent episode just because of Andor and everything going on.
I think Last of Us wraps up on the 25th, so next episode we're gonna have to talk about it.
Yeah, we are going to get into a little bit of Last of Us and another show that you haven't seen that, if you ever have a free day, it would not take you longer than a few hours to binge the whole show, the whole season, but is The Studio.
Yeah, I know. That's on my list. I'm gonna watch that.
Just because the episodes are only like 25, 30 to 40 minutes tops, like none of them are longer than that. But I definitely will be giving my thoughts on that, and that's wrapping up very shortly too.
Another Amazon Prime show,
Yeah.
Spider-Noir, just had a teaser trailer come out. What do you
And
think?
it doesn't even come out. It doesn't even come out till 2026. I think it looks so sick. I was talking to some friends. I was talking to some friends. I was talking to some friends who were a little concerned just because it's Amazon doing it. And this is what I said in response. I was like, well, I get that, but superheroes seem to actually be like their strong suit.
They have a
with
great
Invincible, The
rap
Boys. So I think it looks so sick. I love Nick Cage.
I love Nick
big
Cage,
fan
too.
of Nick Cage.
And the way it's shot and the black and white, and it looks straight out of a comic book.
The scene where we see with with the eyes,
Yes,
when
they glow.
when he pops up behind.
Man.
It looks so good.
When this was announced, I was like, this is so unnecessary. And that's like the Andor effect, dude. I'm like, what the fuck? We got an Andor TV show? Like, this is so unnecessary. And then you look at it and you're like, oh man, this is good.
Yeah, but you know what? My thing is I don't think something needs to be necessary to be made. I just think if you got something fun to do that's good, make it.
Right. Yeah.
And Spider-Noir, like with Nick Cage, I didn't feel that way just because I was like, Nick Cage, Spider-Noir, I gotta see this.
Yeah.
And that, like I said, it doesn't come out till 2026. Like, we have time, but it looks so fucking good.
And he's great at voicing the character in Spider-Verse. I wonder if it's the same character. You know? Like,
I was thinking that too.
Is this that Spider-Man Noir character before or after those movies, before he gets sucked into Miles' dimension? That would be pretty cool to connect it like that. Because they really did confirm that Across the Spider-Verse, every Spider-Man that exists is in that multiverse.
Yeah. So, I mean, he definitely is. Just it could be two versions of Spider-Noir. Will it be like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Especially because it's an Amazon show. Like, I don't know if that's going to actually connect to the movies. I think it's going to be its own thing. But can we as fans make that connection? That will be fun to see. So I'm very excited for that. Another superhero trailer. We got another full trailer for Superman, shaping up to be one of the summer's biggest blockbusters. I don't have much to add from what we've already talked about, but it looked sick, and I'm very excited for this.
I'm very excited too. I saw a lot of people complaining, not a lot, but like the loud minority of people, I guess they're like the Snyder fanboys, complaining that it's too bright, it's too colorful. Why is he fighting a giant monster? And it's like, guys, this is Superman. From what we've seen, this is Superman. It's straight out of a comic book. It's bright, it's colorful. The theme is about hope, not about destroying Metropolis by fighting Zod. It's about, this guy with unfathomable power being more human than the rest of us. Like, he is more human than characters like Batman. He is Superman, and I'm just so excited, man. It's straight from the comics. I love Superman comics. I've only read a few. They haven't really been as easily available to me, but it's gonna be a nice change of pace for Superman. I think this is the movie that Superman deserves.
Yeah, I like the point you said where it's about hope. That really is, like, at its core, the theme of Superman as a character and his stories is about hope, and the good in mankind. And I feel like that's the kind of story we need right now. I just feel like there's a lot of
I totally agree.
Crazy, fucked up shit going on in the world, and like, we just need something to lift our spirits and remind us what we can accomplish, when we try to see the good in one another. And that is Superman at its core. The other thing about the trailer I really found interesting was that it started off with that interview between Superman and Lois Lane, and I think there's a lot of confusion online and a lot of discourse about Superman's core principles in relation to American ideals, and trying to remind people that this is not DC's Captain America, who even that isn't
Yeah.
necessarily just a representation. Not at least he doesn't end up as just a sole one-dimensional representation of American ideals and nationalism. Superman's an alien. Like I think people
He just wants to do good, man.
he just wants to do good, and I think that James Gunn is addressing this in the film. I think is going a very long way for this character and the discourse around the politics of this character, and the ideals of Superman, which I think is very important to be clear and concise about. And so I thought that was really interesting because that's at the forefront of the trailer, which means like that was like the first impression as clearly an important thematic principle in this film that they want the audience to know.
That interview right at the beginning of the trailer was making me a little nervous, though, because it looks like Lois Lane knows that Superman is Clark Kent or Clark Kent is Superman, and that's cool. And I don't know at what point in the movie that takes place, but I just really hope that James Gunn isn't trying to play catch up. I hope that he isn't like, oh, I need to catch up to Marvel, or I need to get this DC's universe, already on its feet. So let's already start off where all Superman's friends know he's Superman. Like that is a big
but this
point
isn't
in a lot of
this
Superman
is
media that Lois Lane doesn't know, and then she finds out. It's like, whoa, big reveal. So if she already knows, I don't really like that. And we already know there's other heroes in the
but
world. So
we know that this isn't an origin story. Like they've made that clear that this isn't another Superman origin story. So
no, I know, but it's like, imagine if like Spider-Man, like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, the movie started where his two best friends already knew he was Spider-Man. Like that was such a pivotal moment for his character, and like for them to find out. Like I don't want that to be really taken away from Superman.
Yeah, you're right, but that's part of his origin, essentially. Like, I think that I see your concern. I will say I see your concern. I think that the place that we're gonna see Superman at the start of this movie maybe isn't what you're expecting it to be, because I think we're seeing him in a place where he's been here, he's been Superman in Metropolis on this planet, and like established. That's where I think we're gonna be at.
There's a way to have him established, though. Like he could be Superman for 10 years before Lois Lane finds out. Like what if he doesn't meet her right away? You know what I mean? Like there's a way to do it, but I get that there's also a way to not do it and still make it good. So if they have Lois Lane know, it's fine. I trust James Gunn. But I just am a little concerned if James Gunn is going to rush us into this world. I would like a little bit of world building.
I agree. I definitely think there seems like there's a lot that's going to be going on in this movie. Mm-hmm. I think he wants to establish the world. I don't think he's going to rush us, but I think he's going to make a point to establish this world. And I think that's okay. He's trying to give people something excited to be and try and differentiate it from the DCEU. And so I don't really have a problem with that. Again, I see your concern. I understand.
I'm excited
your point.
Yeah.
But I have faith that he's not going to cross those lines, from establishing this world to rushing it. Because I trust his storytelling.
I trust his judgment too.
I trust his judgment. So, very excited.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get to one last thing on this episode before we wrap up, and that's the HBO rebrand. Because I thought this was actually pretty significant, hilarious, but significant news that came out in the past week. And that's, for anyone who doesn't know, Max, the streaming service run by HBO, originally known as HBO Max, has changed back from Max to HBO Max. So what was once HBO Max, then became Max, is now going to be known as HBO Max again.
Oh, they made such a big deal of it changing to Max. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was like, we're Max now. You have to accept it.
You know what's funny, and this is like a Twitter situation. Like, I don't call Twitter X. I think it's a terrible name. It makes it sound like a porn website. Like,
Yeah.
I call it Twitter, and maybe hopefully one day Elon
It'll
will
come
change
back.
it back to Twitter.
That'd be nice.
That's what we would all like. But we basically bullied them out of Max. Max made no sense. I don't understand why they called it that, because the whole thing was that, so Warner Bros. Merged with Discovery. So now it was Warner Bros. Discovery was the parent company, and they added Discovery and all of this reality television content onto HBO Max, and they wanted to rebrand the platform to represent the entire catalog. That's where they came up with just Max. What the hell that means, I don't fucking know.
Like
But
maximum
now
shit you could find. I don't know.
I think they realized, and then they changed it. It was like the purple with the HBO Max, and then it went to the blue. So then it was the blue Max. Then they changed it to black, like gray black. Now it's the gray black for HBO Max. Man, first of all, I miss the purple. I think it was more aesthetically pleasing for the platform.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
also, it just is very goofy. Like, there's really no other way to put it. This full circle rebrand of theirs is incredibly silly.
Yeah, I think they're
Uh,
pussies. Stick with it or never do it in the first place.
I respect their social media team for trying to get ahead of the joke and playing into it and like doing all these things, like about them, just getting ahead of the joke. I don't even know how I want to just like, yeah, but even still, it's just stupid. The whole thing is
Yeah,
really dumb.
I think they should
Um,
either just stick to what they changed it to and just be like, yeah, we're Max now, like deal with it, or like you shouldn't have changed it in the first place. But I get it, they did it, but changing back is so dumb.
I'm just assuming that they have algorithms and like feedback that tells them,
Probably. I mean, googling
that
Max
this.
is you can't like Google Max, you know?
Well, I mean, it comes up when you Google Max only because it's so popular now. But yeah, you're right. It's just weird.
Yeah, like you could
It's a
Google
weird
HBO
name.
Max and get it right away. I feel like you have to look through it if you just search Max.
It definitely brings up the interesting debate that we should have someday on here about the streaming wars and like where each streaming service is at, in regards to their popularity and their financial success, the content that they're making. Because obviously Netflix was king for a while, and you have Hulu, which is combined into Disney Plus, and you have Apple TV and Amazon Prime and Peacock and Paramount Plus and
Poopcock.
Tubi, yeah, Poopcock. So is the opposite of Peacock just like poop vagina?
Probably.
Poop pussy?
Yeah, dude. I think so.
That
I think I would actually. That's like better name than X though. You know
That
what I
still
mean?
is a better name than X. Like, I actually would rather use a service called Poop Pussy than
Yeah.
than X.
It sounds less of a porn site than X,
It does. I mean, unless I'm not even gonna say that.
unless you
I'm
have some
not
weird
even gonna go
fetish.
there.
But whatever.
Yeah. But I don't
No,
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting about the streaming wars. Definitely we should talk about that soon. But HBO, going back to HBO Max from Max, just very confusing, very weird. But I just thought if you hadn't heard, wanted to know your thoughts.
Mhm.
Tell us in the comments and everything what you think of this rebrand and what your favorite streaming service is. What's your favorite streaming service, Jack? Because ironically, it might be HBO Max for
It's-
me.
HBO Max is up there. I really like Amazon Prime Video.
Really
Yeah, they got a lot of good originals. Like a lot of good stuff.
interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely between those two.
Well, yeah, I'd probably say HBO. Actually, you know what's a real underrated one? Apple TV. I'm gonna give
That's the
them
only
their
one
credit.
I
mean,
don't use.
Dude, you gotta use it. Like, I wasn't using
I
it either,
know.
and then I got on there and I realized how much, like, Ted Lasso, Severance, The Morning Show, it's The Studio. There's a lot. I haven't seen Silo. I heard really good things about Silo.
Silo, I've never heard of that.
It's with Rebecca Ferguson. I think it's like about these people that, like, I think it's an apocalypse show. people living in a silo. I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong, but I heard good things. I've heard good feedback. So Apple TV, very underrated one.
Do we want to move on to the end of the episode?
Yeah, let's do our seesaw. So I'll go first.
Okay.
With seesaw for today. So something that I saw recently, actually yesterday, is The Lobster, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who also directed Poor Things. That's where you would probably know him from. It's a film. It's a very, very wacky film with a weird premise where if you're single, you go to this hotel where you have 45 days to meet a partner. And if you don't meet a partner in those 45 days, you get turned into an animal of your choice. And there's also like a gang of like loners in the forest, and they hunt. The people in the hotel can hunt the loners with tranquilizers. And the more loners that you hunt, the more days you get at the hotel to try and find a partner.
Okay.
A very, very fucking weird concept, but I dug it. I think Yorgos is the only dude in Hollywood that could pull something like that off. Really fun film, and I think more filmmakers should be trying unique things like that. So I just wanted to give it a shout out. And something that I want to see, I plan on doing a slow binge throughout the summer of these. I got inspired by Mike Flanagan. Shout out to the GOAT Mike Flanagan on Letterboxd, because he did all these, the Sergio Leone Westerns. So like A Fistful of Dollars, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America, and there's one other one. I think there's like 5 of them. I want to watch them. I've never seen them. The only one that I've even seen parts of is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I haven't seen all of it. So I think it's time for me. Like, these are some iconic films that I did not get to watch. I couldn't use on the genre draft last week for Western because I hadn't seen them. So definitely want to check those out, and I plan on it in the next few months.
Okay. For my Saw, you're gonna make fun of me. I've been watching with my girlfriend Love Island.
Oh my god.
I'm not a reality TV show guy. I'm actually like kind of anti-reality TV show, but I've been watching Love Island with her. And Love Island UK, first of all, they're British, and that accent. If you're watching this and you're British, I'm sorry, I hate your accent. I like genuinely. But Love Island UK, I've been watching it, and it's actually really entertaining. Like, you just shut your brain off and you watch these really hot, really stupid people do things and just talk, and it's really funny. And it also makes me feel not that I felt bad about it, but just feel like so much better about my own relationship, that I'm like, thank God we're not them. So like, shout out my girlfriend, I love her. I'm like,
I mean, they're not.
It's a low bar.
Yeah,
it's a low bar. I watched the show and I'm like, holy shit, like that's someone I could be dating. Thank God I'm not. So it's stupid, it's dumb, but it's just turn your brain off entertainment. And something I'm really excited to see, and I tried to go see it last week in theaters, except it was only in exclusive theaters, was Friendship. Friendship starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. I love Tim Robinson, dude. I think You Should Leave. He's so funny, and the clips that they're releasing for the show, for this movie, it's like the same character. Tim Robinson is so funny. And I've been watching Detroiters too, which he's in. But Friendship is looks really good. That dynamic between Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson. It looks really funny, but also looks like there's some dark undertones, which is really entertaining. I tried to go last week and it wasn't in my theater, which is really annoying because they really advertised it to be released on May 9th. And that was like the big thing. It's like coming out May 9th. And then, sorry, it turns out it's May 23rd or something.
Yeah, it got a limited release, and they didn't really push that it was limited. That's happened to me with movies in the past, and then it turns out it's coming out later this month. But we were also, my friends and I also wanted to go see that, and then the same thing happened to us where it wasn't playing unless we go to like Lincoln Square in the city.
Right, and it's like I'm not doing all that.
I'm not traveling, to go do that. And
right,
so,
like I'll just wait 2 weeks. But I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, it looks great. All right. Well, a lot of great stuff going on, always in the realm of entertainment. If you enjoyed this episode, as always, please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share with your friends and fellow film lovers. It really helps us out. We're on all the platforms. We're on TikTok. We're on every platform.
We're everywhere now. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on some other shit you probably never heard of. We're on Amazon Music. And we're, of course, on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, at Box Office Dynasty. Make sure you follow. Make sure you like. We're excited to see you there.
Jack and I are both on Letterboxd. You can find us through our socials, which you can find through the Box Office socials as well. So definitely welcome to follow us there as well. And that's another one in the books, my friend.
Yes, sir. Bye, everybody.
Till next week.